You are listening to Feed the Beast, a weekly podcast exploring all things food with business partners, spouses, and your hosts, Chef Chris Paul and nutritionist Leigh-Ann Charles-Paul of Everything We Eat. I hope you're hungry, because it's time to feed
your inner beast.
So welcome back, everybody, to the Grit Lives Feed the Beast series. This is your co-host, Leigh-Ann Charles-Paul, along with my husband, Chris Paul. Today, we're going to talk about the bounce back. So trials, failures, successes of owning a business. We know we've been there. Everybody else has been there. So let's just talk about it just a little. Our guest today is Vic Pinckney. He is a chef and entrepreneur who has also kind of went through the trials and tribulations that we all have, right? But before we get started in our interview, let's just talk about some food news that's happening in Philly, babe. What's going on in Philly?
Yeah, in general, in Philly, in the food scene, we've seen a lot of closures. As much as there's restaurants opening up, there's a lot of closures backing up. There's been a lot of different shifts in some of the bigger organizations with Vetri ending his agreement with Urban Outfitters, essentially. So, you have a lot of moving pieces now. Pizza Vetri is kind of an heir, growing or not growing. He's definitely retained Vetri, which he's, obviously doing a really great job killing the game, being advanced in the culinary world. We also have Garces recently that we're seeing is running in through some trouble. Essentially, like we spoke about with trials and tribulations is, sometimes we have this goal in mind and things happen, like the economy. AC really hit him hard where he had to close about 4 establishments. And, obviously when you're building at such a fast pace, you start hiring all these people, you need all these chefs. And then it's like, oh, we don't have these restaurants anymore. So, but obviously Garces is a true entrepreneur, and I think he's definitely going to bounce back from that. Hopefully maybe we get him in one day. We'll see. Besides Garces, we have Kevin Spraga making a comeback with the Filter Club, opening later on this year. Same thing, you're growing at a fast pace, you're hiring, and then things happen. It's a very tough industry. You have this idea.
Food in general, right?
Food in general. I think Philly, because of our identity crisis, has its own other thing, because there's a lot of great spots. I mean, just a background, I worked at Chifa, which is Jose Garces, who was one of my favorite restaurant of his, and it closed down. It was just a weird location. People didn't get it, but it was Peruvian and Cantonese. It's like, it was awesome. Mm-hmm. But on the other end, you might have like whatever comes up there, it might be like a cheesesteak spot, and it might flourish because Philly's just that weird. So things to know if you're coming here to open a restaurant, just be aware. From that, we have a highlight, actually. We have El Mercury. They actually operated out of the commissary from the Culinary Enterprise Center, which is also in West Philadelphia. They just opened up in Rittenhouse, and they've been just selling out every day. Awesome spot. I would definitely want to check it out. So it's essentially South American. Oh, so they're, I guess it would be called fast casual. So they have the fried churros, they have the tacos, they have just a variety of things, but they've been selling out at like 2 p.m. every day, which is a good problem. So definitely look out for them. I forget the exact address, but it's in Rittenhouse, and it's called El Mercury. Follow them on Instagram. Like I said, they operate out of our shared kitchen before, and I think it's some good people, some good food. Go check it out.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm really excited to check them out myself. I love churros. Churros are so delicious. So let's get into our interview here. Vic, hello. Thank you so much for coming in.
What's going on, guys? How are you today?
Yes, doing well. So, tell us a little bit about your background. Like, what did you do? I know you're a chef and an entrepreneur. You've done your own businesses. You've started things. You've worked for others.
I've been a chef I've been cooking for about 12, 13 years, we'll say. Mm-hmm. Had the opportunity to be able to manage as a sous chef for the past 3.5 or so. I did actually have a little trial run at starting my own little meal planning service.
Oh, okay.
It worked for a little bit, but I didn't realize how much money I actually needed. So it was nice to know that the money that is necessary to do that will need to be more. Mm-hmm. And also to be able to make some of the mistakes that I made and learn some of the things that I did during that period of time that I was operating it. But how I got into cooking, it's actually pretty funny because I went to school for finance, and I was all about money. Like, literally just wanted to come out of school making the most money possible. Wanted to have, like, nice cars and things like that.
The goal of everybody, for most people at least. Yeah.
You know, see too many videos.
Yeah,
I want this life. But what ended up happening was I went to Rome to study abroad for about 4 months. And I ended up staying an extra 2 months because I loved it over there so much. The culture, the people, the food. And I got to see a lot of different, like, vegetables and salumis and other food products that I'd never seen before.
What are salumis, if you don't mind? Salumis, if you don't mind me asking.
That's the whole process, the charcuterie. So, yeah. So the salami, which is the tubular salumi. But then salumi is, like, it includes everything. So, like, prosciutto, the salami, the mortadella, and, like, this bresaola, which is like a cured beef. But over there, I just cooked a lot. I got my hands on all these, like, beautiful local ingredients. And I started to kind of lose that interest in the finance part because it just seems so, I guess, disassociated from society in a sense where food, you know, everybody needs to eat. People come around food. It's a great way to bring friends around and family. So the Italians also lived a very more relaxed lifestyle, and that's what I wanted to live. So I decided to get into food. And I came back. Took me a little bit longer to graduate than I should have because I had one more semester and I ended up having to do like another 2 semesters. And I'm like, I graduated, wasn't really interested in looking for a job in finance, and eventually found something in food where I was working at Ray, which was at the Sierra Center down by 3rd Street Station. Daniel Starr Restaurant, which was my first cooking experience, and I worked there for free for 2 months, 1 day a week, while working 2 other jobs.
And what were you doing?
I was a bank teller, and I was a door guy for Lucky Strike.
Oh, okay. So what were you doing at Ray? Everything, whatever.
Pretty much, like, they had me come in as a banquet cook. Well, first off, I was just doing like all little prep stuff, so anything that nobody else wanted to do.
Give it to that guy.
Give me all your like peeling your garlic, and squeezing out the water from your spinach, all that stuff. Then eventually, Daniel Stern just hired me because he was like, "Oh, you know, you seem to be doing a good job. You seem to be dedicated. Why don't you come aboard? You know, we'll give you such and such an hour." Granted, it wasn't much, especially for what I like.
You're not getting
that
cars.
fancy car.
Fancy car. I was like, whoa, what was I driving? Driving like a 96 Accord. From there, like, it really opened up my mind. And from working with Daniel Stern, I did not know the amount of like flavor combinations and pairings that were actually out there in the world. And I remember eating something. He had it was for a banquet, and it was this tuna, like seared tuna, with cranberry and melon. And I like ate it because I never had that combination of food before. And it was just like, wow. So it's like you can do whatever you like for the most part like this. And so from there, I ended up leaving there, went to Park. Park was pretty good. Pay was good for working in a restaurant. Didn't learn as much as I would like to learn about food, but it was learned a lot about how to move fast, how to just pretty much get stuff done when it seems like you can't get stuff done.
Yeah,
it seems like impossible.
How many people do they get daily?
Well, I think, not to quote exactly, Park
average, yeah.
Park did about like over 20 million the first year, and they break records. You know, Starr in general just break records when it comes down to revenue.
A lot of covers daily.
If you transfer that into like the kitchen, that's just like that accounts to people working. You know, we used to have our shifts like on a Friday. We would just do like 1,000 covers. You know, people talk about those things, but it's like that's a real thing. And that's like you're there at 5 when they open. You know, whatever, midnight 11, and there's like, if you were to step to the side to get a drink of water, you might have failed. Like it was that serious. And it's one of the experiences where I always think back. I'm like, well, I walked into a lot of places coming from Park. It didn't even matter because people were like, oh my God, we have 170 tonight. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is nothing. And you have not seen people get fired on the line. Like, you know, that was like a thing where, you know, someone would mess up and the chef would be like, get the F out. Like right there. And then someone would just jump in and replace them.
It was like an assembly line.
It was just like a movie.
Is that what you experienced, Vic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, we opened from the beginning of like not open to orientation to day one and then running through and being like across the street from Rittenhouse Park. It's like everyone is just, it was just a flood, constant flood. So, I mean, you were actually, I think you were doing grill and stuff. So everyone got crushed, but I think some people got crushed more than others, you know.
I was at Fish Station. Fish Station was hard, man. When I was there as a sous chef, they had me on Meat Station. And I never realized how much like in the weeds Meat Station gets. Yeah. Meat Station gets like.
Is that because you have different meats to grill and fry or do, or what? For our audience out there that may be starting, why would Meat Station be so difficult?
Well, you have to make sure that you're paying attention and giving each piece of meat that you're cooking the right amount of attention, because you don't want to overcook it or undercook it. Because we've all sent out stuff that was undercooked or overcooked, maybe like hoping on a prayer. You're just like praying to God, it's like, please don't let this go up in temp like 4 more degrees. It's just the amount of items that you have on there, plus the amount of volume that's coming in at the same time. So like your ticket machine, you have to learn how to not listen to it. Because you keep hearing that sound, it'll give you the worst anxiety in the world.
Yeah, ticket machines. It is. I don't know why it makes that noise. Maybe we should like work on like a new ticket machine with a like nicer noise. Where it's like a flute, because it's like, and you just it's like a constant.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
dream
printing.
about it at night.
And besides cooking, you have to grab the tickets. You have to put them up, align them, and
Anybody out there listening, come up with a better ticket machine system for all our chefs.
Something that plays soothing music, like the sound of like the sea or something.
And I guess on your end, what do you think were some of the challenges? You know, I think a lot of people in culinary school in general, you know, people just want to get in the industry. What's like the challenge from earning that chef title? You know, I think a lot of people think you're just going to graduate like, oh, I'm a chef like this. Like, no, when you're coming from line cook to earning that title, and then, you know, what are the responsibilities like, and, you know, what are some of the benefits and maybe some of the drawbacks, you know, because
we know you didn't go to culinary school, but still, you did work all the way up.
I did go to culinary school, too.
Oh, you did go to culinary school?
Yeah, I did go to culinary school, too.
Okay, cool. I didn't hear that part.
'Cause I was cooking before I went.
Oh, and then you went to culinary school. Okay.
Which, I mean, I will say to those people out there that are, you know, just finishing up high school or they're very young, culinary school is something definitely you should get into, because it does give you the knowledge if you're not going to go to college. But on the same hand, if you're older or if you don't want to have the loans because you're going to come out making, you know, no more than $12, $13 an hour. And that's you get like loans of like $75,000 for the accumulated period of time. $13 an hour really doesn't pay that down that well. I would say that getting into the culinary field, knowing that you're going to be doing hard work, and it's not like, you know, hard work isn't your mom's telling you to clean up the kitchen and you got to clean up your room. It's like hard work where you may have to spend several hours just like peeling grapes with like a knife. And it's all about that, you know, learning to be able to kind of get yourself in a state where you don't mind doing the work and it just becomes natural. So, you know, you do like a 16, 14, 15-hour day. You know, 12-hour days were something where I would think that was a short day. Like, it's like 12 hours, like, oh man, a short day, I get to go out and party.
So yeah, any more things about your background you want to tell us a little bit more about?
Well, I think one of the most influential experiences that I had was my experience with Osteria, and that came after Park. And actually, during the period of time I was at Park and going to school full time, I picked up this internship at Osteria. And one day a week, on my only day off from school and work, and I'd spent about, you know, 8 to 10 hours there doing pastries, which was, I never did pastries before, and I thought it would be a great idea to learn this stuff and get it under my belt. Eventually, I knew that Park wasn't right for me, so during the period of time that I was at Osteria, I started they actually planted in my head that I should go and work there, so I guess it worked. Maybe I was about to say, like, I planted in their head. They, what was that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? They incepted me.
Yeah, they accepted you, yeah.
So I worked there, and granted, I got paid less than I was paid at Park, but I knew what I was going to gain was experience. And it really helped me to kind of like see things in a more focused view when it came to food. So just being able to create a dish that was just like clean without having too many different items that just didn't make sense with it. So it'd be, you know, something very simple. One example I remember was that they had there that like one of the items that I really love was this rabbit dish, and it was something that I was tasked with making. It was a rabbit casalinga, not cognata, that's Spanish. I forget how you say rabbit in Italian. But it was like the rabbit of the housewife. And it was just this braised rabbit dish. And all it was braised rabbit with some pancetta that she seared off and caramelized with it, some white wine, and rosemary. And it got served with polenta. And the polenta was just cooked with water. But it required an intensive amount of attention to detail as the rabbit overcooked like that, like really quickly. So you're just like doing your other prep. But you got to make sure that you're like constantly checking that, taking the top off, poking each piece of rabbit, and then like taking the little ones out. But that provided me with great attention to detail. And again, it was tedious, just like, peeling little things that would take hours to do. But once you start doing it well and, people, especially like your superiors, are telling you like, this stuff is like, just like my mom or my mother-in-law would make, who the owner of, or the executive chef of Osteria, Jeff Michaud, his wife is Italian. So he's like, yeah, my mother-in-law would love this. And it just stands up to it. It really gives you that confidence and lets you know that like you're doing a good job.
That's great. That's such a great experience to have.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think you're having the backing from someone who's such an expert like Jeremy Michaud. And I guess one thing, if you could talk a little bit more about, is that I guess transition between line cook to chef, between I guess the different responsibilities, and is it worth it? Because I've been in a lot of places where someone's like, "Oh, I'm not taking that sous chef position because I know I'm going to work like 80 hours. I'm just going to clock in." I guess on your end, did you notice a difference, or would you definitely say it was like a benefit to moving up within the ranks?
I will say it is a benefit. You do lose out on the overtime, but then again, they probably cut your hours anyway, so you don't get the overtime. But the working as a cook, eventually you do reach this point where you have the same mindset as what people would consider to have for a chef. So if you have that mindset, it only makes sense to transition into that job, because without it, you're going to be stuck not being able to get anywhere, first off, and still making the same pay. You probably won't max out past like $15 an hour. And if you wish to have a better life, then $15 an hour is not going to get you the more comfortable lifestyle. Then also, too, with being the sous chef, yes, there's responsibilities. Yes, if somebody calls out or doesn't show up to work, you have to fill in that role. But you do get a chance to, depending on the place that you're working, be a part of the process of developing the menu. You get to see the ordering. You just get to see things from the ground up, and not just from, seeing things from the stage. You're actually behind the stage, seeing how things are created.
Yeah, that's really important, the background. I think when a lot of us go into any sort of business, we're like, oh, okay, we see the fancy stuff, right? The mirrors. We don't realize, okay, what does it take to do this? What's the background? What's the food processing, the food cost, the staffing, the challenges that you have to go through, and going into, as a line cook, you can see that while you're cooking in there, but you don't really understand it until you're put in that position. You need to develop a menu by this time. Oops, something happened. We don't have it. Come up with something on the fly, and that's really important before we start a business, right?
Yeah.
Talking about starting businesses, I know you put your hands at a meal prepping service, correct?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that, or tell us a little bit about that, because we want to know. We do it, so we want to know, what have you experienced?
All right, so I had a business started. It was called Nourish Menus. So what I was doing a sort of a healthy option, a healthy style meal plan. I couldn't call it healthy because I didn't have any of the information that had the the mineral contents and all the
macros and stuff.
Yeah. But I was making healthier food.
Yeah.
So like, I would do restaurant quality style food. I would just, omit certain ingredients. Like, I really didn't use too much dairy. And if I did, it was something like Parmesan cheese that would be sprinkled for the pasta or something. I omitted a lot of the dairy. I tried to remain as gluten-free as possible, which is very difficult to do. Yeah. Very difficult to do. And also, like, the items that I used, I made sure that they were items that just weren't heavy, so they wouldn't be really bearing down, like just burdening people after they ate them, so you wouldn't ideally have to go into a food coma after you ate. The struggle of it, though, was finding customers. And I used, what did I use? I used Thumbtack.
Oh, okay.
Brought me a few individuals. And actually, I did have one person who was using me quite frequently for friends, and she was doing it as presents for like people that maybe were going through like a time where they were just like struggling, and just to have some food given to them for the week or so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, customers, getting those clicks.
Yeah, customer retention is definitely tough in general. Just especially when you don't have, I guess, essentially when you don't have a brick and mortar, it's even tougher to get someone to find you virtually. And that's, I think, one thing that we're dealing with now is, having that brick and mortar and then having additional services is so much easier, because like, oh, look, where is it? I think a lot of people still ask like, oh, where is it?
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of be like, it's nowhere.
It's a commissary.
We're like, you can't come in our commissary and just chill. Like, we'll bring it to you. And that's one thing that I think we've came around to. Besides that, I guess, tell us more. What are you working on these days?
So right now, I am happily unemployed. I just left a job that, which I actually wanted to talk on about people working in the restaurant industry, the culinary field. I left a job that did not treat me well, and I did it on my own terms. I did it with giving myself the advantage in that situation, and I think that being young and working in the industry, people don't realize that some things that are done are inappropriate, and they have the right to speak out against them. And if they get told that maybe what they're saying is wrong and they get punished for it, they also have the right to seek out some sort of protection against that. So, I mean, for anybody out there that's, just getting into the field, or people that are already into the field, just make sure you document things that may seem, maybe a little sexist, racist, anything that may be talking about somebody else's just sexual orientation. Make sure that you're taking these notes down, so you have the power. So the company or whatever doesn't have the power over you.
That's a great point. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Even talking about Me Too movements or any other movement, the Black Lives Matter, also movement, everything like that. It's important for people to speak up, because at the end of the day, this is your life, right?
Yeah.
It's not just this job that you're doing for somebody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take abuse.
Yes.
You don't have to take abuse.
Yes.
And you mentioned you were actually traveling to Spain, right? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
So what I plan on doing in the near future. So I'm at probably the end of the summer, fall, depending on just like how things turn out right now. I'm going to be going to Spain to teach English. And, the teaching English is kind of like a cover, more or less. Because it's hard to get into foreign countries and live there without having some sort of visa, and to provide you with a student visa and provide you with a job. Now, I would like to go to Spain and also cook, too, to be able to learn just about the different types of cuisines and just different techniques that they do in Spain. And I plan on doing that in like several other countries over the next several years. I just want to be able to utilize that in my life, because I'm not even sure if I'm going to come back to the States, but I know that I have to open my own business. It's something that I'm not going to negotiate with myself, because if you know certain things that are right, and you've been in a lot of places and worked in a lot of places, and you've seen things that are wrong, and then you've been brought up and you're just brought up to management level, and you go through a lot of the process of dealing with managing and having to deal with, insubordinate employees, even peers that are trying to sabotage, or even your superiors trying to sabotage you just because of the fact that you may be doing something and getting more notice and attention than they are. I know that because of that, I have to open up my own place, because otherwise I'll just be stuck getting, mad, and I don't like being mad. So, but going to these, going around the world and learning how to cook, I feel like is something that if you have the ability to do it, you should do it, because there's this vast world out there of food, and America has a lot of different things in there, a lot of good things about food, because we are this melting pot. But at the same time, there's the part of the melting pot process just kind of convolutes some of the food. So if, you could get the chance to go to some place where, you get to go to Vietnam and get to go and hang out at a pho place and see them actually like make the pho, and not get the Americanized version of it, because it's probably going to be a hell of a lot better getting it in Vietnam than you would in America. Just getting your hands into just different things and trying to do things, just experiencing a new world for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I think venturing out, experiencing different cultures is definitely great. Just in general, besides cooking, besides seeing the different techniques, I think makes you a better person. You're just more aware, and you're more aware of your surroundings, and maybe you're a little bit more conscious as well.
Yeah, so we're really excited to see what you're going to do abroad and hopefully bring it back over here and be this great, amazing chef, with taking all the cuisines you've learned and creating something awesome. You seem like you're an innovator, so we're excited to see where you take it.
Well, I think that during the period of time while I'm still here, last week I hosted just like a little dinner at my house, my parents' house, and did like a 4-course meal. So I think that during the period of time that I'm here, I probably will end up doing like several of those just to showcase, the type of food that I make, and also just for like fun and just allow people to get together over like good food.
Yeah, I like your concept. That's kind of what we do with everything we eat. What we eat, we would like to bring to other people, and it seems like you share that same sentiment. Food is really a great way of connecting people. So we're just gonna, wrap up real quick here. I mean, essentially, we would like to continue to bring food to everybody else in Philadelphia, and you guys can find us on everythingweeat.com or hashtag everythingweeatphilly. You can also find us at local festivals. We'll be there with our food truck with everything we eat, and it's going to just be, because we're sharing what we eat with you, it's like we said before, it's going to be 80-20. So if we want fried food that day, we'll be sharing fried food with you that day. Right, babe? What are we sharing? Everything, right?
Definitely. I mean, we're maybe about 30 days out, so we'll keep everyone posted on our site and as well as Instagram. Quick tip, we have a pro tip to go out. One thing to look out for is trying to stay within the seasons. As much as people want to use the term sustainable and seasonal, one benefit of it is the actual price. Mm-hmm. Prime example, asparagus is like double the price when it's out of season. So you want to be careful when you're putting things on your menu that you're not necessarily locking yourself into certain commitments, because as things switch, it could literally double your food costs in an instant. So especially when you're talking about berries and certain things. So, I like to stay within the season, and as much as possible, I would recommend it for any other entrepreneurs out there to keep your food costs in check. Thank you for coming, Vic Pinckney. Look out for him. He's a local chef, had some ins and outs in the industry, and looking forward to seeing you in Spain, learning some more things. And like you said, hopefully you bring it back, maybe not. It's all the best to you.
You just got to come out and, go across the world and visit me.
Yeah, we're excited. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on here. It's the first time doing an interview such as this, and being able to give the information to help people out that want to be in this industry or are in this industry already.
Thank you for tuning in to Feed the Beast, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Martin, the production consultant for The Grit Live. If you enjoy our programming, the most important thing you can do to support us is share each episode with your friends and family. You can also leave us a rating and a review on the podcast player of your choice to help others find us. Thank you for listening.